Ladies and gentlemen, how are we doing? Welcome back to another beautiful, beautiful, delightful week of Off Book, the Actors Book Club podcast. My name is Juan Gamero. I am so very delighted to join you back again this week. Alongside myself, we have Gage.
Hello.
I thought you were going to do like a you to you to you or whatever. Aniela.
Hey, everybody. Probably, in case you just started tuning in, first off, just so you know, we are all actors. I do film, television, commercials. Been doing it for 18 years. Gage is just yo.
And Alex.
Hi, I'm Alex, and I refuse to acknowledge that time exists.
I love a recurring bit. Thank you for joining us back this week. We are doing chapters 5 and 6, if I am not mistaken. Gage, please, take us off.
Yeah, all right. We're going to jump into the summary. So if you're just here for that bit, then have a nice next couple minutes while we go through it. Okay, so chapter 5 is titled Imitation and Point of View. And it begins with Dom and Joyce being partnered. She begins opening a laptop and she's like clapping on it. And they have a very, very, very good exercise where Joyce is playing this extremely aggressive woman and Dom is playing this extremely passive male. Esper discusses with Joyce and Dom, and then they remark that the point of the exercise is kind of to validate the outside-in method of acting. He says that that's a completely valid way to work. Esper warns that an outside performance based purely on how it affects an audience, though, is like a barrel with nothing in it, interesting but empty. Like he says that the outside-in method works, but it actually does eventually have to fill what's inside of it. This sparks a super, super long conversation with the class. I mean, most of this chapter is actually just a discussion. Joyce says that mimicking the girl she saw in the coffee shop gave her creative license to do things that she did not see the girl do. Then Esper introduces this idea of point of view because Joyce says that she would not give money to an animal shelter, but she would give it to her sister, which is the idea of particularization from Meisner or the magic as if. And then Bill hands out scenes designed to challenge a particular like character element. And then interestingly tells everybody not to rehearse. So then chapter 6 comes. It's called Come and Sit at the Table, the essence of a character. Amber and Tyrone sit down and they do a very bad table read from a play called The Rainmaker. Then Esper starts to tell a story about two different kinds of actors. He tells a story about Lorette Taylor, who is a very famous American actress, and then Paul Mooney, who memorized completely different ways. Lorette Taylor memorized her lines before the show opened. Paul Mooney came to the first rehearsal already memorized. But what was most important is they were saying that they did that so they could pay better attention to their partners. Then he has the actors do a reading by opening up to each other, find something, a point of contact, then reading the script. Esper then discusses the character of Rainmaker with the class. He says that the essence of a character is that a trait that without it, it no longer is. Esper tells a story about Meisner, which the moral of is simplify your character. Esper then allows Tyrone and Amber to prepare and references many ideas from the first book. They're basically just doing a recap of the first book, to be honest. And then Esper is visited in the office by our narrator, telling a story about Sandy. And again, the whole point, I think, of this chapter was just simplify, simplify, simplify. And there we go.
Awesome. Thank you. I now wanted to start out with Vanessa's crazy.
Okay, yeah, so I had the same exact thing.
Why is Vanessa crazy?
There's a single line of Vanessa where Joyce is talking about how what she's doing for her activity for chapter 1 is that she's writing a advertisement for a boyfriend who she found out cheated on her, and she's putting his photo in and his name in and like his phone number, but then like all this crazy shit. And then Vanessa out of the blue goes, I did that once. And the class is silent.
Yeah, the narrator, I wrote that. The narrator literally writes, no one
Okay. But the other half of that is that she said he deserved it. So, is she crazy, or was he so awful that her retaliation felt like the only thing that she could do to get retribution?
It's
Honestly,
possible.
honestly, how many times have we understood that exact thing? Is it crazy to say that out loud? For sure. You keep that in
Yeah.
your back pocket and you don't even let somebody torture it out of you. But I think it's very human.
Very human, but also it reminds me of like the reverse. I would be pissed as a woman if somebody put up nude photos of me or something like as revenge porn or things like that. So I would just like, Vanessa, girl, we don't talk about those things. Like,
Yeah.
I thought
That
the
man
equivalent. I
couldn't
thought that
have
she
gotten
had
that
like
out of
made a
me.
Tinder profile of him. I didn't know she was putting out nudes of him.
no,
No, no, no.
not nudes. I was just using that as an example.
Okay,
Yeah.
got
Okay.
it. But yeah,
All right.
definitely.
It was just all of his
Also-
personal like it was literally doxing him.
Yeah, he doxed.
And then
Also,
yeah.
Joyce is kind of low key crazy too. Because okay, like one thing is going to Starbucks and like looking at someone. Another thing is following them outside of the Starbucks when they leave.
I have to
and
let
and
yeah.
stalking them. What?
I
Okay.
loved that.
I loved it.
I have to let you know I did that as an exercise for my acting class in high school. So we were
That's-
told that we were going to do what was called, I think they changed it every year, but they called it the rainbow exercise. And we were tasked to go out into the public and find someone of interest, had to be a stranger, and we had to follow them for as long as possible without getting caught. Now,
Oh my
these instructions were given to us verbally because in case we got caught, our teachers did not want it to go back to them.
That's
So
hilarious.
we had to go out and find someone and follow them and understand their habits and mimic them when we got back to class and create a character using their mannerisms. So, I've done this. And it's
Let's-
really interesting.
Yeah.
It is an interesting idea. Obviously, don't follow these people home.
Right.
There's
But
a certain point you have to let go.
you have to
Also,
let go.
New
Yeah.
York City. This is also in New York City. So like I feel like
Yeah.
just the understanding that it's a lot easier to stalk somebody
Right,
in
New
that
York. It's
sense
true.
Yeah.
than if you're in a small town and it's like everybody knows each other and they're like, why are you following me, Brad?
Right.
Right.
Yeah. But
Well,
even
even
as
in
a
the
high
chapter. Sorry.
no, even as a high schooler being told like, "Oh, go stalk someone and and
Right.
learn their mannerisms and bring them
Oh my
back
God.
and show us." That was very uncomfortable. That was like I was
Yeah,
like, "Why
for
do I have to do
sure.
this?" It was wild. But,
Right, and I think even in the chapter before Esper explicitly says don't get caught.
yeah.
That would be bad.
Yeah, it's like, "Don't get caught doing this. This is crazy."
Yeah, that would be really bad.
But you were gonna say, Gage, something about the class?
Oh yeah, just something about Aniela and I have also done something similar to this. We were sitting at in Del Rey and we were just watching people behave. I think we were doing it during one of our Tuesday classes. So it's interesting again that throughout the course of this book, I'm just hearing a lot of the things that I think of more like actory things, like the things you would hear when you're going into an acting class, being brought up. Like I had a note here about something he says that I really liked. Let me see. Let me find it really quick. Okay. I honestly, this. He has a quote where he says, to turn up the volume on certain parts of me, right? And now I have heard that as a direct quote from Ryan Gosling, at least. I know he said it. I've heard Adam Driver say it. I've heard, and not only that, but use those exact words,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so I just thought it was interesting to have a more literal exploration of how to do that.
Yeah, what I really appreciate, because I've heard, like you said, a lot of this is like, oh, these are acting exercises. Yep, you're taking a trait from somebody, you're and you then imitate it. But with that, this is the first time I've actually ever heard it explained deeper.
Right.
And to where it wasn't a fake, quote unquote, just imitation, but like you're not taking the whole person and trying to mimic them, as he very clearly states. You were taking an aspect of their behavior and then you were treating it as if it is a physical impediment, in the sense that you are practicing it, you're putting it into your body, you're using it outside of class, outside of your scene. Dom talks about the hand wringing and the mannerism that he took from this one guy who he saw, and how in that practicing of this mannerism and doing it when the cable guy was there, when he was in the grocery store, how it internally created anxiety, how it internally created this feeling of conflict avoidance. Same with Joyce, of taking this single aspect of this hip knocking back and forth of this woman, kind of like preparing as a bull to charge, and just taking the single aspect of that woman and then putting in her body, walking around New York City with it, feeling uncomfortable. As she mentioned, she felt uncomfortable at first until it became ingrained. And I think that's the part that has been missing in my acting education, is it's the idea of like, all right, you're going to walk around the room and you're going to pick somebody else's butt and you're going to follow and you're going to do their gait, right? And now we're doing the way they walk for a second, but it never delved into the putting it into your body and really
making it
exploring
your own.
Right. Go walk around and do actual things while you're doing it.
Yeah.
And one thing, and using one thing so you can actually hold on to it, not trying to do everything, but a single thing, and then seeing what that fills the barrel. So again, that this is your barrel, but how does it fill it? And this is the first time I've ever heard of the filling of the barrel process with the, let me take a trait from somebody and put that in my body as a character and see where it goes. Fucking brilliant. And I so appreciate it, because again, I feel like I'm like, fucking son of, okay, I don't know if we're cursing in this podcast.
Yeah, after I think it's after the first minute, for 1 to 5 minutes, you can curse and it's not counted against you.
Okay, cool. Fucking A. My level of annoyance for like going, this aspect of it, of the going, you need to practice and get it in your body. Stop being a lazy fuck of an actor. Okay.
No, and it's so true, right? And he has this very interesting idea in there that kind of went right into it, like that bounced off that, which is saying that a lot of personalities and whatever are really just like built out from one central idea, right? One central issue that your body or your body, your brain, whatever, mandates is important, and then everything else gets built out from that. And what's interesting for me, being in the audition scene, I see a lot of graduates of people talking about the effect on the audience, right? Graduates that I know have done outside in stuff, voice classes, movement classes, acting, like all of the exercises we're talking about. And that is what they say. They say, how is this going to affect the audience? Is this having the desired effect? Not asking themselves, how is this affecting me? Right?
Yeah.
I just think that's proof of what Aniela is saying, which is like, because I've experienced it too. I've also done those exercises, not knowing why, doing them for 1 second, 1 minute, and then thinking it was supposed to be just an outside thing for the audience. And then what ends up happening, I think, is when you start to get interested in Meisner, or you start to get interested in inside like variations of acting, you tend to throw all that stuff out because you think it was wrong, not knowing that the reason was the thing wasn't wrong. It was just the reason, the explanation was missing. Juan?
So 2 things. One, I think it's interesting how they can't stop commenting on how buff Dom is.
I know.
Like every other sentence, like, oh, Dom's arms, like they're fucking huge.
His big pursed lips.
Yeah, and in my mind, subconsciously, like my mind has made Dom stand from class because he's like so, you know. So I thought that was great. And second of all, what do you guys think of when he said that you're either born with it or you're not, and that you can't learn it when it comes to
Mimicking.
mimicking?
Yeah, I wrote that was the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Sorry, Alex. Go ahead.
Yeah,
I disagree with Gage. There are
Okay.
people that that have a level of perception that others do not. I think that's what it really is about, because you can get the general sense of someone and imitate them, sure, but to get mimicry to the point that someone has cognitive dissonance, that's a different level. So that's what they really are talking about. It's like the
Yeah.
moment when Jamie Foxx played Ray Charles and his son walked into the room and he saw his dad, because he got to the point of mimicry that he had to Jamie Foxx had to stop hanging out with Ray Charles because he was picking up old Ray Charles mannerisms and he needed to be young Ray Charles. So he distanced himself from Ray Charles in his 70s so that he could then be Ray Charles from his 20s. And his son walked into the room one day and had like a deja vu of walking in seeing his dad when he was young, when he was a child. That's a very different thing from you get people that play like Miles Teller playing Elvis. I forgot which one because there were two Elvises. That one of them was like his own version of Elvis. The other one was Elvis recently. So like that's what I think is it mainly about.
Yeah, I would say also if everyone could mimic, then SNL would have amazing characters constantly of
Yeah.
exactly mimicked versions, but they do not. Some people are amazing at it, and some people are
And it's
trash
also
at
not necessary. Like there's
no.
different styles of presentation. Like if you want to go into very um interesting presentations, go to a show that's based in Brechtian direction and performance. That's all very much like you're always reminded every second of what you're watching is a show. You are not meant to get lost in the story. You're not meant to. No, you're supposed to be critically thinking the entire time. So there's so many different ways of going about things, especially when you're on stage. When you're on camera, that's a different thing, but that you get then go sketch comedy versus dramatic and all that kind of stuff.
yeah.
Okay, I want to jump back in before you started, Gage, because the comment that I made was why my hand was up and not the one that was just made. So, Gage, you had talked about how the outside in with these, so the audience, these students viewing this point of like going, what does the audience think? And that we're actually, they're talking about doing this from the inside, like the outside in, inside out, blah, blah, blah.
Right, not the outside to further outside.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it did make me think of the chapter prior to this where they kind of are the opposite in a way, where he's like, when you are giving you do need to be aware of what the audience sees, because if you have a physical impediment and your physical impediment is not understood by the audience, or it needs to be the basics of what an audience would recognize as a headache,
Hmm.
right? Or as being drunk. And so it's a mix, they say at the same time. So it's like, yeah, focusing on the end, but also being aware of, is this accurate for the external audience?
Yeah, I think some of those things though are just like the bare minimum assumption of what you're doing when you're performing. You know what I'm saying? Um, like I think it's just assumed that it's like at least the way Esper presents some of these things, it seems like it should just be assumed that playing pain all the time is better than playing pain 0% of the time, and it doesn't require further explanation or exploration. It's just that's true. Let's just assume that that's true. And I wanted to push back a little bit on the mimicry thing, because I just think I understand what you guys are saying, and I think it's valid, and I think that there's a lot of truth to the thing that some people are just more naturally gifted at certain things, but you don't think a person could learn to mimic another person through practice and through reps and through a basic you could start with the most basic things of just like raise my hand when you raise your hand, become a mirror, and then develop into this perception that would allow you to do that? I mean, do you truly think a person can't learn to
I
do that?
genuinely think that there are some people that will not be able to. Yes.
Okay.
There are
But does
certain
that mean it
limitations
can't be taught?
that it can't be taught.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I wonder the why on this. Of like, it's kind of what he was saying. Of okay, yeah, you can make your voice sound like a trumpet, and that's a cool little like, wow, cool. You made your voice sound like a trumpet. But why would you make yourself sound like a trumpet when a trumpet can just fucking be a trumpet?
Mm-hmm.
Good
Like
point.
to me,
Yeah, I
of
agree.
so much, we have so little time on this planet. Why are you wasting your effort trying to become a mimic of somebody else if that's not something you're talented at?
Right.
Sure. Okay,
Wasn't that a
I agree.
passage where it was like, don't be a second-rate version of me, be the best version of you because there is no other. So
Right.
like could you I don't know if you could actually teach someone to pick up all those things. That would have to be something within oneself to care enough. And at that
Mm-hmm.
point, you're just wasting your own time,
Sure.
you
Yeah,
know?
no, I agree. That makes complete sense.
One,
No, I mean, I guess I'm just trying to dissect really what I was gonna. Um, I mean, if we're talking about before in the previous chapter, it was said that it should be done to a professional standard.
Mhm.
And by that notion, then yes, I agree. But I mean, most people do like like a dumb impersonation of a political figure or a celebrity or something along those lines. It's not to a professional degree, like it's stated
Caricature
before.
is different from mimicry.
Right.
Is my understanding. Anybody can do a loose imitation of somebody, but to disappear and to reappear as someone else entirely that does exist, that's the difference.
Right. Right.
Mhm. Yeah, I guess it speaks to just a part of this chapter that's like, or to these past couple chapters that there's just some elements of it that are kind of confusing. Like he talks about relaxing into your physical impediments, and then he'll mention it again when he's talking about imitating other people to relax further into it, and then you have like an entire section of this imitation chapter is dedicated to saying that imitation is actually a really great thing, and then a second thing that says don't imitate to a extreme, because then you become don't that's the story about the composers where it's like, why would you be a second rate Belsheva when you could be a first rate whatever.
Yeah.
um and I think it's striking that balance that we find just is always just going to be the difficult thing. How much do you pay attention to the audience? When you're right, it is true to say that if the audience isn't, he literally says, did everybody think that he had a headache, a migraine? Okay, well, that's the best test. So
Mhm.
then when you're acting, how does it not cross your mind? Will this come across?
That is, I think, where you rely on the guidance of the director. Like it's a collaborative experience. So like you do your interpretation and then the director guides you, right? They're going to have the eye of the audience through that. So when I hear the relax part, it's not literally relax your body, it's relax your judgment.
Mm,
Don't be
interesting.
judging yourself. Relax into it. Understand that you're going to have this discomfort. You're going to need to process the fact that it's uncomfortable right now and that you're not doing it. You're not successful. Ease into it. And that will then get you to access it more easily as you go through the process, and then it becomes second nature, and then the audience will become affected by it because you're living in it and doing, as opposed to, am I convincing you yet? People that are worried about that aren't relaxed.
Right.
You need to relax. You need to relax your mind, because as creative as we are, it's also detrimental to the process of recreating life on stage or on the screen.
Yeah, he does mention also that the actor's mind is actually really detrimental to us when it comes to doing the work, and that relaxing into it was about subtlety. But again, what with this chapter, before we move on to chapter 6, was he really pushed point of view as well. And before our episode started, Alex and I were talking about roles that we are currently booked in for this month, and then an auditions that we are in the midst of doing. And so I auditioned, and Alex, thankfully, was my amazing reader and coach for a Hallmark-esque holiday movie. And my biggest challenge with that was I didn't feel like I had a strong enough point of view, because stuff like that is so POV heavy. Like, what is this point of view of this character? But also in this chapter, Gage, you had brought up of or maybe it was Alex, about the director asking questions versus just telling you and puppeting you.
Nobody brought that up.
Yeah. No,
Well,
I
Alex
did.
Okay,
brought
that
it
was-
up before, right?
You know what?
Okay,
I
yeah,
am
we-
nobody. You're right.
No, you're somebody to me, but I thought you brought that up before the episode started.
Yeah, for sure. Talking about the difference in directors, that some, they just want you to puppet what their idea is, as opposed to like Esper, where he only asks questions to start sparking the creativity within, and then moving forward from there.
Yeah. And so with that, and we were saying, so for me, I've been on a lot of film, TV, commercial sets. I don't do much theater. And so I was sharing that time-wise, the reason that I find that on sets, especially for commercials, even for movies, they just straight up tell you, because they're on a time crunch. And this is I'm doing 3 projects this month, and it's so rare that I am booked a month in advance. And so as I'm getting the opportunity to then add all of these ideas in, all of these, like, what am I thinking? And which then brings to chapter 6, which is putting in too many ideas and needing to keep it simple. So it's like, I have this backstory because I'm a character that had a stroke, and what is the, and it's like, oh my God, you can't play too many ideas. You got to just keep it simple. Oh, we lost Gage.
Oh no, Gage.
All right. So I'm bringing that in. It's moving to chapter 6.
Well, I
Yeah.
actually before we do, I don't remember, it was 5 or 6, but speaking on the same thing, that's kind of like when he's talking about how there was a class I was uploaded because the teacher basically had no interest, and then they had to put on a play, and he was giving them instruction or whatever the case. But he said it was like putting glue inside their mind, if I recall correctly.
Yeah, so that's chapter 6. It was
Right.
Bill was given the shitty class that Meisner didn't want because Meisner was bored with them. And
Right,
so,
right.
What a
so
what a
Stefan,
opportunity to start directing, because he never directed before, and then he's handed a class that
That
Meisner's
sucks.
like, I don't actually want to deal with these people. You do it. And it's like,
they suck. And it's like, here
Yeah.
you go, Bill. Here. And so so that's the story, is that Bill got
Right.
this class that sucked ass, and
Right.
Meisner was like, I don't want to deal with them. Here, go direct. And then Bill got real complicated.
Oh yeah. And then
using
it wasn't-
inspiration from a director that did the complicated thing.
Right. And then Sandy came in and basically, what is your character? And they were giving like these long paragraph descriptions, and he was just like, no, you're a nice guy. That's what you are. And then boom. And then he said it brought my dead class back to life or something along those
Mhm.
lines.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, because you
So-
can act a single thought, but trying to hold on to, like, And when I was a kid, my mother only gave me chunky peanut butter. And so that's the only thing that I hate if I smell chunky. And it's
Yeah,
like,
nobody
how
lives
the
their exposition. Nobody
Right.
lives their exposition. They're living in the moment because
Oh
they're
my God.
just trying to get through the moment.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And so I thought that was, yeah, that like, but this process of like, okay, keep it simple. Because so that's that, like finding that balance as an
Welcome
actor.
back.
Thank you.
Welcome back, Gage. Finding that balance as an actor as we prepare. Like if we do have enough time to actually prepare and work on a character, to figure out how much backstory is helpful versus how much is bogging us down versus okay, in the moment, let's just be simple and go. And I'm a brown noser.
I think any and all of the backstory is helpful until you perform. All of it informs who you are as a person, right? And then it lets you know like how you'd react to things. At least that's what I'm getting from the readings that we've done, is that all of that backstory informs the depth of your character.
Mm.
Unfortunately, you cannot, or maybe fortunately, you cannot show all of that depth every moment of a play or a scene that you're filming. So you just have to take there, it's snippets of time, and it's a person going through a moment, and they're, I think it's up to the audience to understand that there is depth there, and that's the perception up to the audience, and it's not necessarily up to us to like force feed it. Yeah.
It's the essence of the character. That's what he called it. The essence of the character in that chapter.
Yes. Yes. You're playing the essence, and either you are happy go lucky, even though you may have had a really tragic past, you might be really reserved, and maybe there is one extenuating circumstance that caused that, but you don't necessarily show everything at once. It might be an unfolding little by little throughout a play or a script. But yeah, like we tend to overcomplicate things as creatives. And so it's up to, that's why a director's there. Like that's why. Like it's just leaving a room full of actors to themselves, you're going to get wacky, nonsensical stuff from a outside perspective, because when we're in it, right? Isn't even in our day-to-day lives, when we're in something shitty, it seems so much worse than if someone gets us out of it and shows us that outside perspective. And then all of a sudden you're like, you know what? The world isn't ending as much as I thought it was. And so it's the same for the a performer. When we're in it, we just want to like cover ourselves in the shit and just like live in it, and we're just like, oh yeah, we're doing so fucking good. And it's just like, actually that's kind of awful to
It's kind
to
of
watch.
gross.
It's gross to watch. Please clean yourself.
I'm reminded in that I know exactly what you guys are talking about, even though my power went out for a second, because I have it quoted here, and it reminded me exactly of a Stanislavski idea where he said, take every single bit of the 300 pages of an actor prepares and all that work you did and boil it down to a single sentence. And it's like, you need to do all that work because otherwise your sentence is going to be like irrelevant. It's
A
going to
run
have
on.
right. Your sentence is going to be a run on, confusing, not clear, not like it's going to be nothing. But once you do all that work, a sentence. And that felt to me exactly what Meisner was saying with that assembly line story, where he's coming in and he's saying, no, you're a brown, you're a good time, Charlie, you're this. And it's just like, and I think I really emotionally connected to a lot of the things that were in this chapter. Like he says, you can't act all that complicated stuff, but you can act good time, Charlie. And I was just like, damn, that's so much easier. Yeah, Anila?
It's so much easier. It also then, so this chapter was a lot of it was a review of the book one, of reminding us like, okay, the essence of the character, you have it in a single sentence. And then what is your moment before? So they were doing this. So a review back into this is they sit down and they go to do this table read. And he has them read the play this time, or in the first book, you did not read the play. You read only your scene, because you didn't want them to get bogged down with plot and character, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
This time you are reading the play twice, once, which reminds me of Stanislavski.
Yeah.
Once in this really, which is still, I still stay with me. It's probably one of the most powerful things I learned from Stanislavski was, how do you read a play or a script for the first time?
Right.
Don't do it half-assed on the train, but really make it a moment where you're taking it in this like special way.
It's a ceremony.
Yeah, but I think it's really important and something I never heard before. And then the second read was to then go and start to get your character. And then he did not have them come and memorize, but had them cold read it. And they did a terrible, terrible, terrible job.
That was my favorite. Is that they treated it like it was the rote. You just read it through, and it's just like, oh no, please spare us this. This awful.
Right, he says you're gonna kill us.
Yeah, you're boring us to death. But I think, and it made me go, okay, this teacher that the four of us did have previously for Meisner, this was an exercise they actually had us do. And I was like, okay, I got to give credit, because it was that cold read of, or instead you stop, you take in the other person, you're going back to that repetition level of taking in the other person, being affected, only saying a couple lines at a time, a couple words, even if that's all you can get out, and then living organically in this moment was really beautiful. And then he had them go through, okay, what is the essence of this character now that you have read this out? So again, making this into a single word, as simple as possible. A painful optimist, a absolute crazy optimist, and then what is your moment before of like, oh, this is like what happened right before this, and then and then your emotion, like, what is that emotional thing that you are going to secretly come to find out, pretend to torture chipmunks, I don't know, creeper, and so it was just I really appreciated the reminder of like, these are the tools we have, and I forget them over
all the time,
over again.
All the
That's
time.
what I was getting at. I forget them every time. I'm like, oh yeah, moment before. Oh yeah, what is my what is my essence? And oh yeah, what is emotionally going to push me into the scene? Oh, why do I keep forgetting those?
No, I know, and I find myself doing stuff from like other books, and I'm like have like this patchy approach, whereas this felt very much like just an approach, a clear, and I really appreciated the clarity of why we're reading that way, why we're doing the table read. I think that's so important, because while yes, I have done it before many times, I had no idea what I was looking for or why I was doing it.
Because most of us it's people just sitting down looking into their script and they're not connecting. At least for most of the table reads that I've been a part of, it's everybody just trying to make sure that they say all of the words. And I've realized where the difference is, to the credit of the Meisner teacher, taking a look at the line and then looking up and trying to connect, that barely ever happens.
Right. It's like but even then even in that class, like, you would do it, then because you didn't know what to look for or why to do it, you ended up just doing that, but wrote the same way.
Right.
And so I was sitting there reading, and I'm about to be like the lead in the play at Island City Stage, Light Switch. I'm about to play the lead in that. Thank you. And I'm like so excited to do this. Like, that was the thought I had the whole time. I was thinking the key thing for me, my takeaway was, and it went back into the story about Paul Mooney and Lorette Taylor, was that it's not about the lines. Like, actually, it's not about the lines. You always hear that. You always hear, oh, it's not about the lines. It's about what the other person says and how they say it, whatever. But they're going so far as to say they're not even looking at the lines. Like, genuinely just about the other people. And all I want to do now is do it. All I want to do is do it. I want to sit at the table read and stare at everybody and actually be like, oh, am I supposed to talk? Right? Like, and look down, when everybody's looking at me because I'm supposed to speak.
Yeah.
I just want to try it. Sorry.
In that, I was at a table read with Tom Cruise and Alec Baldwin and all that for Rock of Ages. One of the craziest experiences in the beginning of my career. And I was reading all of the, like, there was 3 actresses and 3 actors, and we were doing all the one-liner parts for this movie for Rock of Ages. And it was every celebrity in that movie was at this table read. And Tom Cruise was dressed in character, fully came in character. And so I got to do lines back and forth with Tom Cruise. The story sounds insane. And so, but in that, what I learned, thankfully, very early on in my career, is your ass needs to come to that table read. I know that this is a little bit of a different situation, but for actors that are listening to this, just experience-wise, you need to come with point of view already there. You need to come ready, and you can get fired and hired from your table read. I actually wasn't cast yet when I did that table read. I ended up in the movie. And then I've also heard of table reads where people get fired from the table read. And so you better not be looking down, reading your character like a fucking dumbass. Like, you need to come in ready and as a professional, because they're coming in hot. FYI, they're coming in hot. And I just wanted to share that so you all don't come in being like, I'm going to come into this table read, but don't.
Oh yeah, like I'm ready, like to come in like Paul Mooney. I think that the Paul Mooney approach is more doable, because I think if you don't hit your memorization deadline, you're not getting hired again.
Yeah, as much as it would be nice to not know your lines until right before the run of the show, I think that tensions run way too high these days to
I know.
that.
Exactly. So I actually think but I do think you can do the Paul Mooney approach of already knowing them. You already know it so well that nobody can say, and you'll still have your notebook to write your blocking and to do all your stuff, right? But now, I just am so, the idea of doing all of that at the table read, at the thing, excites me so much.
Yeah. And FYI, since I was doing all these one-liner characters, I was reading them for the first time at that table read with these big celebrities. I was straight up cold reading. I had never read the lines that I was reading with Tom Cruise.
How was that, like, emotionally?
Shitting my fucking pants, because it's not just like a normal table read, FYI. It was a huge warehouse, and they had all of the producers up on these bleachers in front of us, and then the directors, and they had all the dancers come in for the dance sequence and full music play, and all of us had microphones, so it wasn't like you were just like you were mic'd for this. And then I am given the script with like just highlights, and it's like, and they have a list of characters, and I've never read the script before in my life. And I get there and they're like, here's the script right now, and here you're doing these 7 characters, and here they are. And so there's the other, like the 6 of us actors are like just going like, okay, what are these lines that I am about to have to read? And we have no idea what we're getting into. And so it was a bit more of the Loretta situation. Is the only way I can do this.
Right.
Where it's me reading, like looking down, but making sure, because like Tom Cruise is absolutely looking at me. He's like 4 seats away from me.
Right.
As I'm reading this line with him. And I am making sure not to read it like this, even though it is the first time I remember reading this. I am looking at him. I'm taking him in. I'm then reading the thing. Oh my God, I almost shit myself. There was paparazzi in the trees when I left.
Oh my God. Yo, this is like, I think that's the coolest part. Like, and I think the takeaway is that no, whether you're doing the Paul Mooney or you're doing the Loretta Taylor, the point is that you're paying attention to the other person, and that's what makes all the difference.
That's
like,
the question,
I just remember. Yeah. I remember doing a callback for something, and I told the girl I was working with, like, to put the script down, because she was like, we were just reading, and I just said, put the script down. I don't, like, screw the lines. we'll read them in there. And then we literally just like stared at each other and everything changed. Like she started to cry and it was all these things. And so obviously she was very gifted and just like open, letting people receive, like, you know, just receiving, to her credit. So it was awesome that she was able to do that, but it was awesome how it changed everything too. And that was way before I knew anything or read anything like that. That was just like a very basic Meisner, heard it somewhere thing at that point, and it just changes everything. Yeah, that's wild. And yeah, I think this chapter should actually be titled How to Survive the Tom Cruise Thunderdome.
I know that was like my first year of acting professionally too.
Wow.
I thought I was going to be famous. I was like, if this is my first year, that was 15 years ago.
You're famous in our hearts.
Yeah.
Oh, thanks.
All right, Juan, take us away.
Guys, thank you so much for joining us this week for Off Book, the Actors Book Club. Next week, we will be doing chapters 7 and 8, if I'm not mistaken. Check us out. Please hit us with a subscribe, a follow, a like, all that good stuff. And tune in next week. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.